Medic!
Welcome back to the Medic Up podcast presented by Responder Solutions Group. This is episode 5 where Kirstin's going to sit down. Kirstin, not Kristen, is going to sit down with us. And she's the veteran of the group of this little student prior student project here. She's a 5-year veteran, just finished her 5th year. And she had very little life experience going into paramedic school. She was a zero to hero graduate, and in fact became the outstanding student of the class, voted on by her peers, and taken into account her academic and clinical performance. So big accomplishment for her at a pretty young age. That effectively put her in a position where she was hitting the street, where she could administer narcotics but could not legally buy a drink at the bar. So we're going to talk a little bit about mentors, her waiting 5 years to cardiovert a patient in the field, some goal setting to progress through a career in EMS, and my favorite, that butterfly stomach flip-flop feeling thing when the tones drop in your first few years of EMS service. So if you guys have been listening, I think it's really going to be easy to draw some parallels between the 5-year paramedic and then the 1 or 2 year paramedic. I really think there's a lot of shared experiences out there. Stick around, take a listen. Next week will be the last in this series, and we'll have Sean on, and he's the baby medic. He is the brand new, months ago got his paramedic, and he is just coming in to realize what his survival year is all about. So stick around, give it a listen, like, comment, let us know what you think.
So my name's Kirstin. I graduated 5 years ago in 2012 out of your first paramedic class you taught. I currently work at Greenville County EMS, and I have done so over the past 5 years. So I've had a lot of new experiences over those 5 years that I've been working there.
And what brought you to EMS? Like you watched TV and were like, that's what I want to do.
I actually just stumbled on it. When I got out of high school, I've always wanted to be some type of teacher. I thought I wanted to be a first grade teacher, and then I stumbled onto the nursing program Tech had. And when I got all my criteria met for that, I actually looked at the paramedic to RN program that Tech had at the time, and I decided to go through paramedic school. And I actually got into the class just barely for the night school in 2011.
And that was my year. That was my first class. Hired on a Thursday, started teaching on a Monday. So no prior public safety experience. No, mom wasn't a nurse, dad wasn't a cop or a bus driver or anything like that. It was just, I'm going to use some EMS to what I used to call stepping stone EMS to further yourself in some other healthcare career, RN or PA school or whatever it was going to lead you to, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how'd that work out?
Didn't work out too good.
Didn't work out too good?
Well, it's good for me, but it wasn't the plan that I thought I was going to go to. I ended up getting into this career. I gave myself about 2 years to decide kind of what I wanted to do, 2 or 3 years. And I've decided that I really enjoy EMS. I love the nature of the beast. And this is where I want to be. This is where I want to stay. This is where I want to help people. So,
when did you realize it? During EMT school, paramedic school? Or?
I realized that I really enjoyed what I was doing, probably in EMT school when we were actually doing things, learning things that I was going to be able to do out in public. I felt like going to school sometimes just feels like you're learning useless education. But once you actually got in EMT school and was able to do things in class that related to what you were going to do in your future.
You learned the assessment, you met people, you started taking care of people. So it was more for you in class.
Yeah.
Instead of I hear a lot of people say, man, I was so nervous for my first ride time. And we left deployment, and then on our first call, this guy said his chest hurt, and I watched the medic, and I knew this was it for me. I wanted to do this, and I wanted to go to paramedic school, and I want to do that. And that's cool. I think it's good for anyway, whether it happens in the classroom or on your ride time. So you show up, you finish EMT school, 240 hours, you skate through it, and you end up in paramedic. Now, did you have time off between paramedic, or did you go straight through zero to hero?
I went straight through zero to hero.
Straight through zero to hero. No time to really practice EMS.
No.
And you showed up in I didn't teach your EMT. You showed up in my first class, which was pharmacology, cardiology.
Yes.
Awesome. And how well do you think, and not personally, how well did I prepare you? How well did our paramedic school prepare you to work as an entry-level paramedic on your first day?
I think overall I was prepared pretty well. I think the scenario-based stuff that we did in class and how hard the teachers were on us in order to acquire that information and be able to really regurgitate it and also put it into practice. I think that that was a big help. However, it is a totally different story when you get into the field and you have to have all these other new experiences along with just trying to learn how to be a paramedic. You have other things to look at and see. You have to learn how to run a call, what not to do, what to do,
how to be a paramedic,
not how to treat especially ACS. When you have no life experiences going into it right out of school is even worse.
And you're in charge of the narc and somebody's life, and it's a serious business.
Yes.
That's right. So we'll teach you. And what we never ran maybe we didn't never run, but we didn't put emphasis on the 2 a.m. non-compliant med psych call or my toe hurts from gout. We were like, no, we're going to put you in chest pain times 2 days, worsening over the past 30 minutes. I can't breathe. It radiates to my left arm. My jaw's numb. Put the 12 lead on. Oh my God, inferior wall MI. Let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, transport, so on and so forth. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. What part didn't we prepare you for? Or what part, I don't want to say we, just in school in general.
Just in general, the life experiences, how to deal with people, the life and experiences in EMS in specific is a lot different than some other people's life experiences. They don't get to see the things that paramedics get to see on a regular basis and deal with issues that normal people don't have to deal with.
Right, and we walk into patients' houses from all walks of life, nationalities, socioeconomics, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we, it's sometimes hard to translate in school in a simulation. And we don't really focus on those soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say somebody, and not to pick or anything, but how old were you when you came to paramedic school?
How old was I? I graduated in 2009, so that would make me 18, 19, 20, 21.
You were, right. So you came
early
into
20s.
The profession 18 to 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So old enough to give morphine, IV, not old enough to order an alcoholic drink at the bar. All right? That's a lot of responsibility. And you're saying it yourself. Not a lot of life experience. When I was 18, wow. I was making mistakes left and right. I was an EMT. I was already an EMT. Well, I was an EMT at 18. We don't know what we're doing.
Mm-mm.
And to be in charge of life-saving it's a big deal. But if you stick it out, you're gaining life experience every single time those tones drop.
Every day.
Right. So
every call.
What, all that being said, what would you say to somebody, what would you say to that medic student on their first day of the first semester of their first paramedic class? So for us, it really is, it's EMS 150, so advanced assessment for paramedics, a trauma module, and then that's where they get to learn ET tubes and IV sticks. So they're walking in for their first day.
Perfect practice makes perfect.
Perfect practice makes perfect. Okay.
Really.
And they're going to look at you and be like, what?
Really do a good job at learning your skills the same way every time in the same manner so that you get into that habit of doing things so it's second nature to yourself.
Methodical.
Very methodical. Don't play around when you're in class. If you're going to do it right.
Learn the basics.
Learn the basics.
Perfect through repetition.
Yes.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Because what happens, and if you've played any sports, is if you practice and you pick up a bad habit with practicing, you're going to continue that bad habit in games. And then it's very hard to change that bad habit that you've created. And it's even harder to change it than to actually learn it the right way the first time.
And that first wrong imprinting is the worst.
Yes.
Because breaking that bad habit
it's difficult.
Yeah. And it's a ton of work. It's a ton of time.
You put more work and effort into trying to break your bad habits that you've created for yourself.
Right. I agree with that 100%. What would you say to that same person as they're leaving either the pinning ceremony or graduation? They're walking down the aisle, they're ready, they've got their card, they're ready to save the world. What would you say to them?
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
It's okay. I would say that every day when you're at work as a paramedic, you learn every day. Make sure that you really focus on going over every call after the call to see what you did bad, see what you did good, how to improve yourself, just constantly improve yourself throughout your time. Constantly, if you have a question about something, go up to the doctors, ask them about it. Hey, this is how my patient presented. This is what I was kind of unsure on. What would you have done? Kind of deal. Just always continue to improve yourself, and remember that it doesn't happen overnight. No, it takes time and experience and calls. And just because you're brand new doesn't mean that you are not going to be doing well. It takes time and experience. And that's what I've always told myself. I can always improve with time and experience.
Exposure and experience. That is our teacher, along with continuing education and kind of that drive to learn more. And you see something on a call, you didn't understand it, you go back, you look it up, or you ask your partner, or you ask the education guy, whatever it is. What would be your best memory from school? It's been a while. 5 years. 6 maybe, if you count the first year.
Technically, yeah, 6. You have to give me a second. It's been a while ago.
It's just one bad dream you try to forget.
No. Right. Paramedic school was very good. It's very hard just because of the amount of hours that you have to put in, the amount of hours that you're actually up all day, all night. When I was going through paramedic school, I worked at Bowers after I got my EMT. And I worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then alternate weeks, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So I went to work. I woke up at 2:30, got to work at 4. After I left from work, I went to paramedic school till 11, so I got about 3 hours sleep every day.
Let's talk about that. You were in my first class I taught, or first
night class.
First cohort I taught out of when I got hired here. And it was a night class. And when I was hired, like, hey, you have any problem teaching nights? I said, nope, I'm coming from night shift. Being up is no big deal for me. And it's just like you said, I would show up at the college around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, get my prep stuff done, and wait for you guys to show up at 5 o'clock. You guys would have class from 5 till 10 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, 7:30, every night you guys were there, everybody was done. You guys were done learning. You were done for the day. Even young people like yourself at 18, 19 years old who... When I was 18, 19 years old, I stay up all night, sleep for 2 hours, and go to work and work a 12-hour shift with no problem. But by 7:30, 7:45, yous were done. And I didn't notice that until a little while in. And the hard part for me was that was my first faculty teaching job, where I was trying to prepare and make everything perfect. So I tried to copy how I learned in paramedic school. And that did not work. At least it didn't work in my head, but I had to show you guys that you guys are getting the best education ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I absolutely remember using our smart boards and having you guys try and stay engaged, get up, come and draw on the board to measure out EKGs that were blown up to giant size, and mm-hmm. You guys were calculating rates, and we were doing drug calculations. where what the part you guys didn't see was in the background where I would frantically try and put together lessons because there were no lessons given to me. I was starting from scratch. I had references, but as I floated through them, I found out that it was a lot of old material, a lot of things were incorrect, a lot of things were left in a very advanced state of learning where I knew, I couldn't teach it that way, and I didn't want you to learn it that way. And then when you added in that everyone in your class was coming from a day job, it made it 10 times harder. I get it. It's a needed thing. Night class is a needed thing. If people are motivated to go do that, they're going to do it. And, it was good that we provided that. And, we don't now, but eventually maybe we'll get back to a night paramedic class. But I absolutely see a difference between the day learners and the night learners. So what's your best memory? Answer the question.
No. I have a lot of good memories from paramedic school. I really like the team-based approach. I think one of my best memories was when I realized that I was having a really difficult time with EKGs and third-degree blocks and second-degree type 2s. Right. And one day in class, you had sat down with me and we were going over it, and you were like, what is this? What is this? You know what this is. You've seen it a million times. And I finally clicked, and it just finally clicked. And I think that was one of my best memories.
All right. So what's the worst one? When I was yelling at you about your third degree block knowledge.
No. My worst memory. I don't think I have any bad memories.
It doesn't need to be in class. It could have been a bad ride time, bad clinical time.
Bad clinical time.
Yeah.
One of the paramedics that I was riding with one day, I had an issue with her all the time. She was very rude, kind of demeaning.
To you or her partner, her patient?
Well, probably a combination of everybody, but more so to me on the truck. So we were on a call. I ended up, getting a blood pressure. I'd actually taken a heart rate before I had taken my blood pressure, and I told her what it was, and she's like, "You didn't check that heart rate." And I was like, "I did before I checked the blood pressure," and she just very demeaning on scene in front of the patient.
In front of the patient,
and yeah, so that I think was those memories that I had with that specific paramedic was the worst.
Look how fast you came up with that memory versus, man, I have to really think about the good.
Yeah.
And that's horrible, and I get it. And I can't remember what I wore yesterday or what I ate, so I probably don't remember if we ever talked about that in school.
No.
But I guarantee every year, every semester, someone comes and says something about having a bad experience with a preceptor or a crew or a clinical preceptor. And, some people are more upset than others, and we end up telling them, you just got a really good dose of what not to do and how to not be when you go practice.
Yeah.
And maybe that's me always trying to make something positive out of a negative, or trying to always find that teachable moment or experience. I've had people in tears before telling me about crews, and I was like, look, you just got a really good picture of how you don't want to be. I mean, you have a role model. You're like, I want to be this person. If I can be talked about like this person, I know I made it. I never want to be talked to. I never want to be compared to this person because, that just, it was such a poor experience or a negative experience. And, I hate that for people. But again, 18 or 19 years old, not a lot of life experience. There's one, you chalk that one up to another life experience. So that's really good because that kind of segues into the next couple questions. How important do you think mentors are in our career field?
I think mentors are very important, and I think that people don't realize how important they are. I think that in this field in general, people don't take the time and opportunity to take somebody up underneath their wing as much as they should, and kind of teach them and, just be there for them to talk to about issues at hand or questions, be that person that is very positive and go-getter, encouraging people to do well. Just get that positive mindset for people.
And have you seen that change in the area? You've been here for 5 years. Have you seen that change? Do you think there's more mentors out there or less?
I think there's less.
Less.
I would like to see them being more, and I would hope that there is more. But in my personal experience, I think there's less because I think people are tired.
People are tired.
So,
do you think people 5 years? Do you think people see you as a mentor, or do you know that you're a mentor to somebody?
I had an explorer that I helped out a lot, and she rode with me all the time. I felt like I was a little bit of a mentor to her. I saw characteristics in myself that I saw in her when I was at that age. So, I tried to encourage her to do well, to have the confidence in herself that I didn't have at that age. Just really, truly believe in yourself, have that person to pep talk you up. And then have that person to say, hey, look, you should have done this a little bit better. Let's work on that,
right.
so.
And in that interaction, do you think that's working out for her? Do you think that she knows she chose you, yeah? Or other way around, as a mentor, or it just kind of happened?
Yeah, I think it just kind of happened.
And so does she know? Does she know you're mentoring her?
I think at the time, yes, she did. Yeah. I think at the time, maybe she didn't realize it up until she got to further her experiences in the field.
A little further into paramedic school, she realizes the
I hope I helped her.
Of it, right?
Yeah.
I think we know. I think we know the same person, and that's a new medic who's getting a bunch of
new experiences
and some life lessons,
and we've talked about mindset and how things change. As you're an explorer, you learn, and those people will talk you up. Hey, you're doing great. You got this, and then you go to the totally flip side. And now you have all the responsibility, and that mindset changes. It's like, oh gosh, this is a little bit scary. I didn't realize how much this is.
And that's me. I'm a product of exploring as well. I am a product from EMS birth of exploring, which is great. And again, I've said it to 100 people 100 different times. I am very fortunate myself with my Explorer Post mentors, who I guarantee have shaped my understanding of EMS, my respect for EMS, how I learned in EMS, how I came up through EMS, even through the failures and the successes. And I'm extremely fortunate, almost to a point where it's very hard for me to relate to a lot of normal I don't know what's a good word, like roadblocks, tribulations, I guess, that some students have. Like, well, what do you think? I'm like, I really can't comment on that because
you don't have that specific experience.
That. I mean, I was very lucky. I understood. I was being taught paramedic stuff before I went to EMT school, or I had paramedic exposure well before I even knew. I mean, what that even was, and it's sometimes very hard for me to relate. Being around the students, it's a little bit better because I hear shared experiences, and it ends up that you end up becoming a mentor by proxy because you're the instructor, and the student comes to you for advice, and they expect something out of it as part of that. Did you have a mentor in school?
As far as a paramedic that I went to ask questions.
You know what? It doesn't need to be a paramedic. You could have been friends with the grocery store checkout guy or girl, and we're like, I really need to talk to you about this. Or, somebody, it could be anybody. Somebody growing up, parent, teacher, coach, anybody.
My parents always instilled a sense of, hard work and effort to go into things. At that time in my life, I was having some parent issues, so having some interaction with my parents. We weren't on the same page. It happens. So I didn't really have that. Let's think. All the paramedics that actually did take the time out of their day to help me improve on the truck. I mean, I would consider them mentors. Teachers, of course, I think, Chris, you were a mentor in general because you're
the second person who said that in these interviews, which is, it's really weird to me to hear that.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to separate instructor and mentor for whatever reason.
So I think I guess my main mentor would be you, because you gave us your past experiences, and you made us think, and you made us overcome a lot of things.
And again, that's I attribute that to my upbringing through the Explorer post. And again, I had 10 years of paramedic experience when I came to you guys. I had 16 years of EMS experience as the basic on a paramedic truck, as an Explorer, as a crew chief in collegiate EMS, and at the time, I really don't know how much that really played a part in helping you guys, or was it just like, hey, it's paramedic school story time, get your hot chocolate, get your blanket, and you guys know, when I was in paramedic school, it was time to start the story. Or, you hear enough of those war stories like, oh my God, I'm so tired of hearing this. How does this relate? And then maybe you're on a call and you're like, hey, I've heard about this before. And I know I read about it. I remember Chris telling this story. And again, if that's how it happened, that's awesome. I'm glad. I guess I don't look at it that way. And that's just me. I probably should. But it's very validating, and I appreciate hearing that. I usually talk about having an EMS epiphany, or when did it click? So some students, it clicks for them maybe sometime toward the end of the last semester before graduation. Some people it clicks while they're walking down the aisle at graduation, and other people it clicks maybe during their first or second year of practice. When did it click for you? I'm not going to say has it clicked for you yet. 5 years, it's clicked somewhere. When did it click for you? Did you have an EMS epiphany?
I didn't have so much of an EMS epiphany. I had more confidence in the experiences that I've had in the past, probably around 2.5 years. 2.5 years, you're starting to feel comfortable. Around about 2.5, 3, had more experience under my belt. At 5 years now, I feel a lot more comfortable. So that's, 5 years is my most comfortable point in my paramedic career.
I'm glad you say it that way. And 5 years is for me, it's a big deal. This is more about you than it is about me. So when you say confident and comfortable, I'm going to put words in your mouth. Are you bored with EMS?
I'm not bored with EMS. I will never be bored with EMS.
Do you feel that you are at the top of your game, nothing excites you, there's no call you can't handle? Where do I go from here? 5 years.
In my personal opinion, you can be good at something, but you still have to have more experiences, and I think that regardless if you're a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year medic, you're still going to get a little bit nervous about some of the calls that you run, just because, just in my opinion, because some calls you've never ran. So, for instance, I've never ran a pediatric cardiac arrest. I think that's the major one on my list.
Never did it.
Never did. None.
You walked in here earlier. We talked earlier. 5
Had my
years,
first cardioversion.
5 years.
Last shift.
5 years. Finally in the field.
Finally.
Somebody took the ride on the Lightning.
Yeah.
What? How did you feel doing it?
I felt a little bit nervous, but I felt confident though.
Nervous
in my treatment modalities.
It was the right thing to do. I know how to do it. We're gonna make.
I didn't think twice about it. So.
Right. Okay. That is, and again, it's probably based on prior experience. I had plenty of years before I became a paramedic. At 5 years, I was bored to death.
Really?
I was bored to death, and I was looking for something else to do in EMS. I remember I used to say it at work, and again, it makes me a bad person, and probably a bad clinician to do that. And say, I'm at the top of my game. There's no call I can't handle. Nothing excites me. I don't run. I don't even run to the triple gunshot victim anymore. It's just like, great. We're going to go plug some holes. We're going to get to the surgeon. Let's just be careful out there. And I remember looking for something. And that's when I really started to teach continuing education. I started to get my AHA instructor, my NAEMT instructor, and I was just trying to find something interesting. I went back to school, finished my bachelor's. I went to critical care paramedic school and was like, what else can I learn? There's got to be something out there. I still wanted to learn, but I just remember being bored. Not bored enough that I wanted to leave the job. Love the job, best job in the world, hands down. I miss being on a truck every single day. That was a big thing for me at 5 years, and it was like, wow, 5 years, that's all it takes to just be awesome at this and be done with it. And I know it's different for people, and I was excited to ask that question because I wanted to see if it was just me or did it kind of did people think that way. But 5 years, first cardioversion. Went awesome, great. That's good stuff. It's another notch in the experience.
I think maybe the difference between, I know I started my bachelor's degree program 2 years ago, so I've been in school for 2 years. So, I mean, I always look for the next step regardless, and I just, I didn't wait for 5 years to come to start a bachelor's degree program because I knew, after 2-3 years, if this is what I wanted to do, then I need to go ahead and start improving myself for the future.
Right.
Start learning new things to better improve, my clinical skills, how I think of things. So I guess I haven't ran into that. I think that if I would have waited till 5 years, I think I may have been a little bit bored. But since I have other things going on, I think that kind of
kept it up. We want that lifelong learner and stuff like that. So, all right, I got one more little bit of that. So 5 years, you're not bored. Let's go, before I get into the survival year question. When you first started, and it could have been EMT, but I'm looking more for paramedic. When you started paramedic here in this area, we still had tones on our radios, right? When the tone went off, could you tell your own tones? Like when we used to be able to hear on the open radio, we could hear all the other trucks' tones go off.
No, you can't.
Right. Well, you could do that, right? Unless you had it set.
I don't know.
All right. So if you couldn't hear the other trucks and you only heard yours, when the tones went off, tones dropped, did your stomach flip flop?
Yes.
Does it still do it?
Yes.
It still does it after 5 years.
Well, at nighttime, if I try to pick up a night shift, at nighttime, I'm not very comfortable running calls at night per se, especially waking up in the middle of the night and having to have that adrenaline pumping. So I guess not so much anymore. A tone's a tone more.
Right.
But at nighttime, it's different.
It's just in a radio alert. We don't have our own.
It's a radio alert.
Pick out the truck tone like I knew.
Now 44's truck tone I can pick out.
44's truck tone gave me SVT one night. So fired me out of bed. I had to sit back down because I got dizzy because my heart was racing. So that was.
I went on a call at 2:30 in the morning after I had been sleeping about 4 hours, and I got up out of bed and I had a Charlie horse. Worst time to get a Charlie horse because you have to go to the truck, put on your boots, all that good stuff, and that was miserable.
All right, back to the stomach butterfly thing. First year in EMS. Every time, right? Every time the tones, you're like, oh my God, that's us. Yeah. And your partner, I remember that as an explorer. I'd jump on the couch, jump off the couch, you're like, that's not us.
I still do that at home though, because I'll think my tones are going off, and then my reaction is to go get in the truck. And then
you hear your tones at home?
Sometimes, yeah.
Are you listening to the scanner?
Or, no.
You just hear it?
Yeah. Like, at, out in public and stuff, I'll hear something that sounds like our tones, and I'll be like, one day I was sitting in a restaurant and I heard my tones go off. I was doing homework in Panera, and it was the tones, but for the crew that had just started ordering.
That's awesome.
And my immediate reaction was to hop up and run. Yeah.
I'm not 2 minutes away from the truck. I got to beat my 90 second out of shoot time. That's awesome. I don't know. Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever been I've never heard our tones. I have, but unfortunately it's like when I brought the radio home off of a shift, and I worked night shift for 10 years, and I would come home. We would swap out at 6:30 in the morning. I'd get home, and I'd be like, I'm going to have a little snack before I go to sleep. And I'd open the refrigerator and then get toned out for a call and go, that's not right. Like, why would I need to go for a diabetic? I'm going to have orange juice. Wait, my hip's talking. Wait, I have to go find the crew. I really want to go to sleep, but now I got to go return the radio. Mm-hmm. That's the only time I've heard tones, unfortunately. Or maybe I went to empty my pockets and, hey, there's the narc key. Lucky me. So that's good stuff. You were the person I really wanted to ask about the stomach butterfly flip flop thing.
It's not so much anymore. Just
Not
at
so much.
nighttime.
It kind of goes away after a while. That's fine. And when people tell me about it, I'm like, man, I remember that. And then that is it. That's my favorite part of EMS. So, all right, back to your first year when your stomach did flip flop. The first year that I call it the survival year. That's a very big educator term. That first year, like my daughter's going through that right now. She's starting her first teaching job in the 5th grade, 3rd grade, one of those grades. Next week, it starts her survival year. You just got to make it through. You just keep your head above water. My survival year was teaching your class, and then when you guys graduated. That was your survival year. Tell me about your first year.
Oh, my first year was okay. I think that...
It was just okay.
It was difficult and it was a lot to learn. It was a lot of stress. My first FTO was very, very smart. But I don't think he related to me very well. I don't think he knew how to build my confidence. But my second FTO did a really good job.
Is he going to hear this? Is he going to hear this show?
That's okay.
Like, are you kidding me? That was my favorite.
Now, and he was, if I could be anywhere as smart as he is, then I would be doing good, so and I think it's personality wise too. I think, my second FTO was actually able to build my confidence and make me be more confident in myself. And that's what I needed from somebody. That's what you gave to us during paramedic school, and that's what I needed when I got off on the truck. So I think my second FTO got me a little bit more and understood me, but my first FTO taught me a lot of the basics and, how to handle calls. He didn't ever, nothing ever worked him up about any calls that he was on. He was just really laid back, but extremely smart. But my second FTO was able to build that confidence in myself, and I think that really helped me. If I didn't have that person to help me out, I think that I would be a totally different paramedic.
Really?
At year 5, yeah.
That's awesome. How about at year 5?
Well, not year 5. Into year 1. I don't know if I would have made it past over 1 or 2, because I think people were looking at me at that time too, and maybe critiquing me to be to the point where I don't think she's kind of going to make it kind of deal.
6 months is our
probation
here. So you have a 6-month probationary period. You're very lucky that you had 2 FTOs. So,
2 great FTOs.
The shifts do different things. Like, so on my old shift, it was you. Like, you had 1 FTO. And my thoughts have changed over the years. I think you should switch FTOs. Mm-hmm. I think you should have phases. I think you should have, a month or a month and a half with one, and then you keep switching. So you get that different personality type. When I think in your case, very important.
Yeah.
I liked consistency, and I liked being that consistent training officer. Mm-hmm. But I'm the exception. I would cherry pick my students. I would have a student on their second year of ride time. I'd build a relationship. I would go to them and say, hey, are you thinking about working here? Well, not really. I think you should put your application in here. And in fact, I think you should be my probie. And I think since you've been riding with me for about 8 months, you've ridden another 6 months, I think we have a good time. And, I would start training my partner while they were in paramedic school, get it worked out so where they could get, they come to that assessment center, they do a good job. Hey, I was thinking I'd love to work night shift. And then all of a sudden I would find out when they were hired. I'd be like, hey, I got an opening. I just finished training this guy. I'll take this guy. He was my student, so we kind of already know each other, and I think it's going to go really well, and that just would work out. And I probably did that for 4 or 5 people, and those 4 or 5 people were actually pretty successful. Mm-hmm. I liked consistency. Not to say I'm against swapping out, but I would probably great, it takes 2 or 3 shifts to really get that relationship going, and, even especially if you're training somebody and you have a student rider, I'm trying to tell, hey, this is what I want the trainee to do, and then this is what I want my student to do, and then I'll kind of facilitate. But that's good. So how much do you think your survival year played into you being a 5-year paramedic, making it through that survival year?
I think that's a very important, I think it's very important because if I didn't survive, then obviously I wouldn't be in EMS anymore. You know what I mean? So I had people who influenced me to help me do better, and I think that eventually made it. That's the reason why I'm still here, you know?
That's good. And you are fortunate enough to work, I think you work with at least one of your paramedic school classmates.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then another one is on our opposite rotation.
Awesome.
That's been 5 years.
Yep.
So.
Which, again, you guys hear me saying all the time, I really measure my success on your success, which is awesome that you guys are there for 5 years and you keep going. I like to think, hey, what's next? I want to see you guys be successful and move up through the ranks and do cool stuff. So, what would you go back and change about paramedic school in general? Like, what would you change about it, if you would?
If I could have had more time.
What do you mean more time?
More time in class, more time dedicated to study, more time to read through books.
That's the opposite of what we hear. We always hear, I wish I had more time, and then we say, well, doing what? And they say, more hands-on time. I really wish I had more time to spend with a monitor before I graduated, or more time, putting the splints on, or more time doing airway maintenance.
No, I think you have to learn that in the field. I think that you have to learn the basics in paramedic school, but I think more time being able to just learn more stuff that would help me clinically.
So you wanted all the knowledge before you got out, not just the base knowledge, entry-level knowledge. You wanted it all.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's going to be a long paramedic school.
Yeah. Right. It would be a long paramedic school, and that's why you have to continue to learn and continue your education. So 5 years, and I kind of keep asking this question, because I think it gets a negative connotation sometimes. Would you say that EMS has changed you as a person, or I don't really know where I want to go with that. I think that it's made me more well-rounded. I have more experiences dealing with different people, I don't try not to take things for granted because I know that we're not given another day always. I try to be very empathetic and compassionate towards my patients, regardless if they have a stub toe, or if they're having a heart attack, or if their loved ones just died. I try to take it into their perspective of, regardless of what an emergency I think it is, if I think it's an emergency or not, it's their emergency. It's something that they need help with.
To them, that's right.
I think that I've really had to keep that idealistic, more of view of that. So I haven't got burnout yet on paramedic stuff because I've seen people, change their views into a more pessimistic attitude about running calls and not getting, your high acuity calls every shift or every couple of months, and having to run granny. So I think that I've tried to hang on to that view that people have told me that I would have changed in the future. I did have a point probably a couple years ago to where, I was like, this is stupid, kind of get out of my positive mindset, and I had to reevaluate myself to get back into a better mindset.
Are you talking about responding in general?
No, I'm talking about
having a hard time caring about somebody's emergency.
I think I don't think either of those.
No?
I think it was more due to things going around me that I can't change that affected me.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I guess
it does.
That might not make sense to everybody else, but
it was external.
Nothing
wasn't related to EMS.
Wasn't related to EMS and patient care.
Compassion fatigue. You're like, ugh, really? Your arm hurts again at 2 a.m. How long has it been hurting? 20 years. What's different tonight, sir? That's compassion fatigue versus those external factors.
External factors, I think, have affected.
Life doesn't stop while you're doing EMS.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. I absolutely get that. I'm glad it's worked itself out too. So what's next? What's next for Kirstin? Working on your bachelor's.
Yes. So I'll be done with my bachelor's. I wanted to be done this summer, but again, I found out that I'm not Superwoman and I can't take full-time class load and work full-time, unfortunately. So I'll be done next May. So after that, I've just wanted to, my initial plan was to get on school, be able to get my FTO at the county so I could focus really on training people, go back and get my classes to teach with, kind of build myself up in that standpoint. I would eventually like to go back and get my master's at Western Carolina in the educational portion program.
Then I can work for you.
Eventually, but we'll see if my husband will let me.
Wow.
He said no school for a little while, so because it's a lot of work and it takes a lot out.
I absolutely get that, and I have a different view. I like your view. My view is, man, I really don't. I don't mind moving toward a master's. I just don't want to pay for it.
That's true.
And I really don't. It sounds bad, and it's everything against education. I just don't. Right now, I don't want to put out the time commitment. Mm-hmm. And I know that's really sounds stupid with all these online programs, but I just don't want to put out the time commitment.
Now, question for you, is that because how young are you?
Young. I just turned 40.
Okay.
I'm old in EMS years.
So I'm 26 and you're 40.
40.
So there's a difference in the time. Is that going to be, do you see what I mean? Like, does that make a difference? If you were 26 years old and you could go back and get your master's, would you do it?
I would.
So I think it's a different.
But at 26 years old, I didn't have kids. I didn't have other responsibilities. Yes. I didn't have to. Again, it's weakness. I don't want to have to time manage more than I already do.
Yeah.
But I also don't want it given to me. I don't feel entitled that I got to get a master's degree and you owe me a master's degree because I'm such a great instructor. So I think it's not a priority.
Yes.
It's not a priority right now. That doesn't mean I stopped learning. I still figure out, I still try and find ways to do better in the classroom, get the students more engaged, have a better experience through paramedic school. So on your first day at the curb in deployment, you're ready to do what you got to do. I don't want to put out an entry-level paramedic. I want to put out, on your first day, I want to put out a second-year EMT. So you go through, or a second-year paramedic, so your survival year is not that bad. You actually get more out of it. And I think we do a good job doing that, but I can always move towards something else. Now,
if I was in your position and I was at your age with the kids and all of that, I don't think I would go back. So I think it just depends on, your life state and where you're at. I don't have kids. I have a husband. I have work.
Kids sometimes. That's what I'm told.
No.
My wife tells me I'm a child.
Wow. No. My husband's very supportive, but I do need to give him some time back that I've taken away over the past 2 years.
That's time management.
It's very hard to manage all of those different dynamics, plus family dynamics as well. So if I had children, it would be a lot harder, and I don't.
It absolutely is. So because I said the same thing, I was like, wait till my kids are older, and they're getting there, and and we can all do things together, and it helps time management. They're self-sufficient, but.
It still takes time away from them.
It's time away. I mean, I would even be, if it was online, I'd still sit at the house, but not be able to give them attention because I would be in a book, in a computer, completing assignments.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't want to half-ass it. I want to earn that degree, and I want to be able to apply it as I've applied.
And feel like you've actually spent money on, not wasted your money.
And because now, again, older, that money has to get split up between the kids need shoes, the kids need clothes, there's school stuff happening. And you're going to pay, $900 a credit hour for a master's degree program, and I got to get that $900 out of that credit. I rationalize it a little bit differently because everyone's like, go to PA school. I'm 40, I can go to PA school for 2 years. My return on investment, I'll be getting ready to retire. I'll still be paying off that debt. How do I really want to be working that long in my retirement to pay off my PA debt? And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. It's not off the table, but it's just one of those. I would have to time manage 10 times as much with an online master's degree as going back to a clinical thing. So. It is what it is, but again, like I said, I would I miss the ambulance. I miss that. I miss the patient interaction in their house. Taking the students to clinical, I get to cherry pick my high acuity calls in the ED when we escort them over there for clinicals. But that's why I kind of love talking to you guys, because I get to live vicariously through your calls and say we have clinical discussions about them, and here we are. So, anything else on your mind?
There's always something
related to this.
I wanted to go back to when you said, are there less people that you had thought that are mentors? And it's not that I think there's less people, I guess. I think there's less of the people that I used to know that are leaving now in EMS.
I would agree with that 100%.
And does that make sense?
Yes,
I guess
it does. It absolutely does. And why are they leaving EMS?
Because of situations at hand.
And it's because
and
they're
it's
done.
out.
They're done with that part of their career.
And
for whatever reason, whether it's just not fulfilling anymore, it's time to move on. They don't like it for some reason, or they just don't get what they used to get out of it.
So my what I would like to encourage others to do is to become more mentorship, become mentors, so that you still have those people in place.
Well, take interest.
Take interest in
the people coming up. Take ownership of it.
Ownership's a big thing. I think people don't take ownership for what we have or who you are and what you do, and take pride, take ownership of what you do on a regular basis.
Right. Again, it's very weird to me that people say, well, Chris, you're a mentor to me. Well, it's really weird to me because I don't think I can be, because I taught you. I never got to do truck time with you to say, hey, let's go run this call together. Let's see what you got. Or, hey, this is what I would have done. Or, hey, this is what I think. And you go, wow, I'm really glad I shared that experience, and you got to share your experience with me. Is going to make me better. That's why it's hard for me to say, well, you're a mentor. That's why when I ask, it's outside of EMS, coach, family member, pastor. It doesn't have to be that person. It helps, I didn't have in paramedic, when I got my paramedic, I didn't have a mentor. I drew from experiences as a basic and an explorer that my mentors kind of instilled, and was able to kind of carry that with me. Jokingly, one of my paramedic instructors always told me, you have to lay down on your belly to intubate. Like, you have to do it. It's the best way. It's the only way you're always going to be successful. And I would fight it, and I would kneel, and I wouldn't get the tube. And I came to work, and it was like my third tube, and I was kneeling because I didn't want to lay down, and I couldn't get it. And I finally laid down, and I got it, and I had to email her and say, "You're right." And again, maybe not a mentor, but it was one of those. Her exposure and experience helped me be successful in that situation. Where in the back of my head, I was like, "Oh, she's right. I better lay down," and I did it, and it was awesome. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Anything else?
My mentor would be maybe my husband. He's my best friend, so he just kept me going. Support. Awesome. That support system.
That's awesome. You just wanted to write that in there so he'd hear it.
That's cool. So.
Awesome. Well, that's good. Good talk. I appreciate you coming in.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
I will.